Hey, what's going on everybody? Commander Crane here, and we are back with another Pioneer deck tech. So today we're going to be talking about Colorless Eldrazi Aggro, the first colorless deck we've really done on the channel for the most part. I'm very excited to share the list with you. As always, let me know in the comment section below after the video, what do you like about the list? What do you hate? What would you change? And as always, if there's any suggestions that you have, just let me know in the comment section below. So, all right. I've been wanting to do a list like this for quite some time. I've played an Eldrazi list, at least in the Pioneer Showdown. I don't know if I actually ended up doing the deck tech of that. I don't remember, but I've always wanted to do a colorless aggro deck. I tooled around with a couple different lists. Like I kind of had like a constructs list going, and then I'm like, you know what, this just seems like worse Eldrazi, so I decided to do an Eldrazi deck, but it has some non-Eldrazi elements in it as well, but largely it is an Eldrazi deck because they're pretty much the best colorless creatures in the entire game. So alright, we're gonna hop into it here, and I know what you're thinking, like, what, these are two non-Eldrazi's that you're playing? Yes, that's how good they are. So I wanted a good one drop that was also just like really flexible, and that is Stonecoil Serpent. Yes, there is Endless one, which is X. It's basically Stonecoil Serpent, except it doesn't have the reach, trample, pro multicolor. Just it's X, enters with X counters. I wanted Stonecoil Serpent just because it's a very, very underrated card in the format as a whole. Obviously, the reach, trample, pro multicolor is fantastic. Yes, it doesn't trigger the Eldrazi Mimic in the late game, but that's fine because I'd rather, quite frankly, play a Stonecoil Serpent for like 5 and then not trigger the Mimic as opposed to playing the Endless one anyways. So Stonecoil Serpent is a very, very fantastic card in the deck. Good in the early game, great in the late game. Also playing 2 Phyrexian Revokers, a card that I haven't seen anybody play pretty much in Pioneer since the format has started. I wanted a good 2-drop, and I decided to play for Revoker because, it's a 2-drop, but it's also very, very disruptive. Especially against like Mono Green Devotion, there's a lot of great targets. Pretty much every deck, there's always something you can name with this, which can be very, very annoying for our opponent. So that's why I decided to play 2 Phyrexian Revokers. And then obviously 4 Eldrazi Mimic, kind of the heart of Eldrazi. Well, not really the heart, but just a very, very good card. It is very consistently inconsistent. I can say that for sure. So, but Eldrazi Mimic, fantastic. We play our Mimic earlier in the game. We play our bigger Eldrazi in the later game. It gets bigger. We can attack with it. Eldrazi Mimic, just a fantastic card in general. So, next slide here. Unsurprisingly, the core of the deck. We're playing 4 Matter Reshaper, 4 Thought-Knots here, and 4 Reality Smasher. Obviously, all fantastic in their own right. Matter Reshaper or Matter Redraw. just a good early game card. Cashes in when it dies. Thought-Knots here, arguably the best Eldrazi in the entire game, at least in 60 card. Thought-Knots here is incredible, obviously getting the perfect information, taking our opponent's best card. Yeah, sure, they get to draw a card when it dies, but still, it does its job, what it needs to do. Then Rally Smasher, obviously a fantastic Eldrazi, basically the Thundermaw Hellkite of Eldrazi, if you would. Just a great card in general. Obviously, late game, Rally Smasher is most of the time our best top deck just in general. So, those are all of our creatures that we're going to talk about, but we got a couple spicy cards. We sort of have another creature here. We're playing 3 Heart of Kiran. I almost played Reckoner Bankbuster in this slot, but I wanted a more aggressive vehicle to play. Obviously, the 4/4 Flying Vigilance Crew 3 means all of our Eldrazi can crew this. And obviously, it's just 4/4 Flying Vigilance. That's big. That's a Sarah Angel, if you would. So, yes, Heart of Kiran, very, very fantastic. Playing 3 copies of those. We're also playing 4 copies of Ghostfire Blade. You don't really see this card very often. Most of the time when you do see it, it's typically in decks like Is It in Soul, but it's still fantastic. 1 mana artifact. Equipped creature gets +2/+2. It has equip 3, but the equip costs 2 less to activate, if it targets a colorless creature. So for 1 mana, we can give it +2/+2, which is just an insanely good rate. Even our 2/1, Phyrexian Revoker, it's a 4/3. A Reality Smasher, it's a 7/7. Thought-Knots here's a 6/6. It just makes everything bigger. We can even, Heart of Kiran, we can crew it and then equip it and attack for 6. It's just fantastic. Speaking of good equipment, we're also playing 2 Shadow Spears. I I tossed around what I wanted to play in this slot, but I ultimately decided Shadow Spear. Giving our big Eldrazi lifelink is huge. Obviously, just giving Trample in general is also great for cards that don't have it, like Thought-Knot Seer, prevents chump blocking, and then the 1-mana prevent permanents your opponent's control lose hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Can be relevant, not always, but it can be relevant sometimes, and that has the equip too. So Shadow Spear just fantastic in general. In our last slide here for our main board, we're playing some of our disruption, if you would. We're playing 4 Spatial Contortion. Simply put, Spatial Contortion is really the only removal that this deck really has access to, but it's still not bad, you know, +3, -3. That also goes both ways. You know, we can pump our creature with it in combat, you know, like Rally Smasher, if they, like, you know, go all in on blocks, and then we just go bam, Spatial Contortion. We can pump our own Rally Smasher, which is pretty funny. But the main reason we're playing it is for the -3, so we can just remove, you know, pretty much any medium-sized creature, which is fantastic. Then we're playing 2 Warping Whales. Very unique card in general. Obviously, exile a creature card with power toughness 1 or less, i.e. get rid of an elf most of the time, or, you know, there's other cards we can get rid of too. Counter target sorcery spell, which can be very, very good in this format. There's a number, you know, if you're playing against like Lotus Combo, Is It Phoenix, Mono Green with the Storm the Festival, lots of good sorceries that we can snag with this. Even like of a board wipe, you know, as long as it's not like Supreme Verdict. If our opponent goes to wipe the board on us, boom, counter it, get it out of here. And then obviously make a 1/1 Scion, which, you know, in the, you know, worst case scenario, if it's not good in the matchup, we can at least end step make a 1/1 Scion, which helps attack. So, you know, we can always do something with the Warping Whales. Spoiler alert, with the Warping Whales, I am playing 2 more in the sideboard. This card is very, very good, but it just requires the right matchup. So that's why we're only playing 2 in the main board. So that's our entire main board, except for the lands, which are very, very fun. The lands took a long time to figure out just because there's so many good colorless lands in Pioneer. You know, they all have the different situations, and this is what I ultimately decided. So we're playing 23 lands. Playing 4 Mutable. Obviously, it's a staple land. It's colorless. It counts as an Eldrazi. Ghostfire Blade gives it +2/+2. Fantastic. We're also playing 2 Mishra's Foundry. Definitely not as good as Mutable, but I wanted 2 more man lands. What's also cool is the active ability giving an attacking assembly worker 2/2. Mutable is an assembly worker, so that's kind of cool. It pumps the Mutavault. Playing 1 Westvale Abbey. So I haven't seen this card in a long time. I was going through colorless lands that we could play and decided to play just 1 Westvale Abbey. It's a great late game sync, you know, 5, pay 1, make a 1/1 white and black human cleric. 5, we can tap it, sacrifice 5 creatures, and then transform it, which it transforms into Ormondal, Profane Prince, Flying Lifelink, Indestructible Haste, which is just, you know, a lot of decks can't really beat that. So just playing 1 copy of it, though, you know, we're not activating it a lot. It's mostly just late game. If we've got the extra mana, we've got something to do. We can either sack all of our Eldrazi to do this, or we can just, you know, gradually make some 1/1s and then sacrifice them. Great either way. So we're also playing 3 Blast Zone. Obviously just great at picking off smaller permanents. You know, obviously we're Eldrazi, we're colorless. We don't have a lot of ways for removal, and being able to play that on a land is pretty awesome. So 3 Blast Zones, fantastic. Playing 3 Scavenger Grounds, just great because it gets rid of graveyards. I originally had Sunscorched Deserts in the deck. I ultimately decided to cut them just because there was a lot of better lands I wanted to play. You're like, yeah, we're aggro, and, you know, sometimes that 1 damage can add up, but I ultimately decided to just cut those and just play the Scavenger Grounds, which are fantastic. Playing 3 Field of Ruins as well. You know, destroying non-basic lands is very good in this format. We can get rid of Nykthos, we can get rid of like Thespian Stage, we can get rid of man lands. Field of Ruins just really, really great in general for us to play. And then rounding out our lands, we're playing 2 Bonders Enclave. A card that not only a lot of people really play. It's from Ikoria. Tap 3, tap to draw a card. We can only activate it if we control a creature with power 4 or greater, so we just need like a Thought-Knot, we need a Thought-Knot Seer, we just need our Heart of Kirin, our Reality Smasher. Most of the time it's tap 3, draw a card, which is very, very good. Couple different draw lands I thought about playing. I thought about playing Cryptic Caves, but I ultimately decided to just play the Bonders Enclave. We're also playing 1 Tomb of the Spirit Dragon. Great land in the aggro matchup. Past that, really not that great. You know, 2 tap, you gain 1 life for each colorless creature you control. So yeah, we can gain a decent amount of life from this overall, but we're just playing the 1 copy of it. And then rounding out our lands, we're playing 4 wastes. We need the wastes because we are playing Field of Ruin. If I wasn't playing Field of Ruin, I probably would just be playing like 1, but we want the colorless lands to ramp into. And I know it's like the spicy basic land of the day. There's a lot of different wastes that you can play. Ultimately, I decided to play this one because this is my favorite from the original lands. This is like one of the first booster boxes I ever bought, actually, was Oath of the Gatewatch. So seeing this art, very sentimental to me. I know there's a lot of sweet old border ones you can play, but ultimately decided to just play one of the original extended art ones because they are sweet. So that is the entire main board. We got to talk about the sideboard though real quick. So I know it's a colorless deck. What could we possibly sideboard? Well, we actually have some decent options. So I've got Disruption. In terms of that is Pithing Needle and Damping Sphere. Pithing Needle is great just because, you know, again, we're colorless deck. We don't have the best removal, but if they have a problematic Planeswalker or a creature that has a really good ability, we can play Pithing Needle and we can go ahead and shut that down. Damping Sphere obviously is always as great against the mono green decks, the Lotus combo decks, solid against Izzet Phoenix, that kind of thing. We've got Graveyard Hate. Tormod's Crypt and Grafdigger's Cage, still fantastic. Crypt, we can play in any deck, doesn't matter if it's colorless or not. And then Grafdigger's Cage is also just very good against decks that cast cards from the graveyard. It stops Collected Company because they can't put their creatures from their library into play, which is great. It's great against Arclight Phoenixes. Keep those birds in the graveyard. We do not want them coming back. So very, very good. And then I put extra removal. So I've got extra 2 Warping Whales and the Filigree Silex, which is essentially just the new version of Ratchet Bomb. It is legendary, so we can't play both of them out, but typically you don't want to play both, Ratchet Bombs in play anyways. So the sideboard, this one did not have as much flexibility because once again, we are a colorless deck, so it was kind of harder. I don't want to say harder, but definitely less options at our disposal. But the sideboard is in the description. Well, the whole deck's in the description if you'd like to check out the exact sideboard that I'm playing. You could flex things a little bit with some of the Graveyard Hate, that kind of thing. But for the most part, I think this is definitely the most optimal sideboard that we could be playing. So I did not include any of the budget options in this deck, mostly because with the budget options, I'm not gonna lie to you, there's not a lot of cuts you can really make. The deck's only about $120, $130, especially, and you cut most of it. It's just in like the Thought-Knot Seer, the Mutavault, and the Shadow Spears, so you can make this deck cheaper, but not playing Thought-Knot Seer is just, it's one of the best Eldrazi in the deck. You really can't cut a card like that, and yeah, you could cut some of the man lands, play some extra ways, play some of the cheaper colorless lands, but you're losing a lot for the most part. So yes, you can make this budget, but it is extremely hard, and the deck gets significantly worse. So I just figured I would include that in there just because I didn't have, wasn't really enough to make an entire section of it. So anyways, that is the entire deck. I'd like to thank everybody for watching this video. Let me know in the comment section below, what do you think about the list? Is there a specific card I forgot? I know there's a lot of cuts that I had to make for the deck because there was a lot of spicy colorless cards that we could put in the deck. Just let me know in the comment section below if there's definitely one that I forgot. So I'm Commander Crane. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.